Worldwide movement, peace, love, respect. Big King Sadiq hollering at you one more again. All right. Uh, well, thank you everyone once again chiming in. Already blessed with a beautiful day yet again. The streak continues, right? All right. Well, I wanted to talk about yet again another important subject. Very interesting subject, I think. A very introspective subject. One that hopefully should prompt us all to take a look at ourselves, right? All right. Pardon me. So the focus or title of this is don't be a slave to anything, right? Very important. So, I mentioned introspection, which is a very important process that aids us immeasurably, right? When you're able to look at yourself, when you're able to be honest with yourself, and you're able to really not sugarcoat your own behavior, right? Your own motives for your behavior, and your intentions, right? When you are very honest with yourself about that, then you've picked up a very important and valuable tool, indeed. And that is the tool of introspection, being able to look inward and inspect yourself, right? So, in doing so, we may notice that there are a lot of things in our lives that we cling to, right? A lot of things in our lives that we may not even consciously notice hold importance in our day-to-day functioning. So much so that we develop a dependency, right? We depend on these things to be in our lives in the way that we are accustomed to them being in our lives and serving the purpose that we are very much used to them serving, right? An example of that would be for my coffee drinkers, right? I certainly have experienced this. I don't really drink coffee anymore for a number of reasons. Likely the main reason or the main reasoning being that I don't want to succumb to that calcification agent, right? The caffeine in coffee is certainly very potent and serves as a calcification agent against your pineal organ, right? But not only just that, the other negative effects of caffeine, right? It is an amphetamine. It is, well, I don't know that it's classified as an amphetamine. I said that incorrectly. It is a, what's the term they use? Caffeine is in the same classification as a drug like cocaine, right? It's an upper, so to speak. And yeah, I don't know. The term escapes me, but yeah, caffeine certainly is a calcification agent, and that's the main reason why I don't partake in it. But anyway, for many of us, we simply cannot begin, or at least cannot efficiently or effectively or in any sort of an organized or normalized way, wake up in our day and begin our day without that cup of coffee. And you've seen folks who have had, who have that dependency on that cup of coffee have to go without it in the morning, and it's not a pretty sight, right? We've all seen that. Many of us have been there, right? Particularly since the corporate entities of this country, in fact, worldwide, are amidst a huge push for coffee to be distributed on an even greater basis. It has been sort of cross-sold with a lot of other products. That some of them typically go with coffee, some do not. But the bottom line is that, like, for example, Dunkin' Donuts puts, if you look at their advertising, and this is not a knock against them here or there, but the reality is, if you look at their advertising, they focus a lot more on that than they do their donuts. But they're another corporate entity, quite likely in line with all the other nefarious corporate efforts, right? And if you look at some of the other aspects of their menu, their plant-based or quote-unquote plant-based products, folks. Listen, there are a lot of corporate companies, a lot of corporate entities moving toward the appearance of being more holistic, right? Good, that's fine. I would only caution that with these companies, we need to be cautious, simply because they've demonstrated an tendency to put the welfare of their customers far below their profit line, right? But anyway, back to the subject. The addiction aspect of it is very powerful, right? There are a lot of other addictions in our lives that are very powerful. Certainly drugs is an obvious thing, but there are things that are not so obvious, right? Some of us can be addicted to a person, right? Confusing that for love when really it's infatuation or some form of addiction, right? Some of us can be addicted to a certain food product that may or may not be healthy for us. Well, I mentioned coffee. What about the cereals that they have our children so immensely addicted to, right? Most of them, if you look at the ingredients, with their complex sugars, with all the other nefarious additives, the calcification agents, the toxins, the food dyes, right? The red number 40s, all those nefarious, certainly not healthy ingredients that our children are subjected to, right? But yet we serve it to our children all the time, and we don't even think at all about, hey, is there an addictive element here? Why do my children actually get upset, right, if they don't have their favorite cereal? And that's certainly another example of some of the addictions in our lives, right? It can take the form of material. That is big right now, right? It's been big in our society for quite some time, but now, if we honestly take a look at our society and ourselves, materialism has grown exponentially, right? Many people live their lives these days believing in nothing but the pursuit of material gain. they literally believe, and unfortunately many of our young folks have been conditioned to, have been indoctrinated to value material gain over just about everything. Sadly, in many instances, even their own souls, right? And that is an extension of this addiction that we all suffer from in various forms, right? And when we are addicted to anything, right? No matter what that be, especially if we are addicted to it to the extent of our own personal detriment, which any addiction, I believe, is detrimental to you to some degree. But some are very much, apparently, something that is not good for you, that is destructive to you, and that truly we are a slave to. Because if you are addicted to something that is harming you, and the continual consumption, usage, or reliance on that thing that you are addicted to is more important than the fact that it is harming you, you are in fact a slave. You are a slave to that addiction, right? Take a look at slavery, right? Your slave master, or any slave master, certainly does not have the best interest of its slave, right? Other than the purpose of efficiency for labor, right? Or whatever way that slave is being usurped. So there's harm, right? However, many of us have what's called the slave mentality, right? And I will give reference to Elijah Muhammad and his excellent depiction of the slave mentality in his book, A Message to the Black Man. This was a very powerful, still powerful, very powerful and important and influential book to a lot of melanated folks here in the United States, particularly during the 70s, when I guess we would say the Nation of Islam enjoyed its greatest strength, right? We probably saw a pretty powerful resurgence in the 90s, but that's not neither here nor there. The point is that in that book, Elijah Muhammad talked about how the slave mentality is very much likened to the mentality of the battered woman, right? She knows that her man, her husband, or whoever this abuser is not only detrimental, not only dangerous and harmful and abusive, but life-threatening, right? Yet and still, if that man is attacked, or often if he is, confronted by family members or law enforcement, in some way to stop him from abusing that woman, the abused woman will often defend that man and make statements like, "Oh, that's just the way he shows how much he loves me," right? And will often regurgitate the indoctrination that this man has ingrained into her, right? Sad situation, but a very good example of the slave mentality. Loving that which is harmful to you. Being addicted to that which is harmful to you. So folks, I say that it's a good idea for us to take a long, hard, introspective look at our lives, I would say the most evident place for us to look, or rather the easiest place for us to recognize these addictions is in our diet, right? Because unfortunately, we are under attack. I don't mean any specific race, any specific social economic group other than the elites, right? If you are not in that elite category, that socio-economic elite group of the quote-unquote 1%, or however you would like to describe them, that nefarious group of individuals and organizations, corporate entities, etc. If you are not in that small group, in that minority, then you are under attack through your diet heavily, particularly here in the United States. You folks have heard of what's called food deserts, right? Those are areas and cities where it's not easy at all to get fresh groceries, right? Usually in these areas, there's no grocery stores. There's just a lot of dollar stores, right? And if you take a look at the ingredients in those food products, it's a blatant attack. It's not even, you know, in the slightest bit covered up. It's a blatant attack. But you have that going on even in popular grocery stores in suburbs, right? The unfortunate thing is that because this entire country, the world for that matter, but specifically this country has been so indoctrinated, so heavily indoctrinated, that you've got a large portion of this country that are very confused. And in that, I mean, they align themselves with the quote-unquote 1%, believing that they are a part of that movement, not realizing that you certainly are not. And not only that, you are just as much on their list of disposable. What was the name of that movie? I don't know. I won't go into that reference. But you're very much on the list of things that are disposable or considered to be collateral damage, right? Folks, the days of the black and white racial clash and thinking that's certainly real, but thinking that that is the totality of the attack or the reality of conflict in this country is gone, because that's a farce, right? The white racist power structure was created by the socio-economic elite, and has been used to subjugate highly melanated individuals for quite some time, out of fear, right? For what those highly melanated individuals carry in the line of potential. But that's a whole nother subject. But I brought that up because those same elites who may have created racism don't care about such issues themselves, right? They're not, this, I would send this out to my quote-unquote Aryan brotherhood type individuals, right? Folks, if you think that your government, if you think that there is some individual in the cabal or some group that is standing up to protect and to hold some loyalty to the Aryan Brotherhood or any racist white supremacist group, you're sadly mistaken, because they have you counted as disposable or expendable, right? The same way they do me. Same way. The elite don't care about races. They don't have love for any of us. Black, white, doesn't matter. Indian, you know, whatever the race or nationality or creed you want to pull up. The elites of this world care about one thing above all: power. Not money. They can print money. They care about power and control above all, right? And they have, if you just do a little bit of checking, an agenda to keep their paradigm of control in place. And a big part of that agenda, right, is attacking you through many of the things that you are addicted to in your daily lives. Like some of the things I mentioned: coffee, you know, cigarettes, certainly huge, just slaughtering people. Cigarettes, tobacco and alcohol, both of those things. Think about it. It is documented and has been documented since before I was born that alcohol and tobacco are far, 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 far more dangerous to the public than marijuana. Yet it's only now that they've perfected nefariously bioengineering marijuana, it's only now that marijuana is being legalized in much of the country and the world. So, well, much of the world it wasn't even illegal from the beginning. But anyway, that's just an example of how they operate, right? Come on, man. Cigarettes, alcohol. If you don't know that they have been two of the top killers in this country for decades, then, you know, you got a lot more to uncover than I can help you with. But again, yet and still, you can walk right into your store and you can purchase both of those packages of death, right? And not only that, advertisement, social mores and trends, all of the things that make up the society steer you right to alcohol and cigarettes, right? Steer you to those food products that are not healthy for you and that in fact are killing you and calcifying your pineal organ. All of these things are very purposeful, but they are also something else. They are things that we individually have the power and opportunity to fight and to prevent from having an impact on our lives. Folks, it may seem inconceivable to many of you, but you could stop eating meat. You can do it. Listen, I used to eat chicken, steak, I mean, everything just like everyone else, right? And I would eat big portions, right? Give me my meat was where I was at not that many years ago, right? Now, of course, I did stop eating pork back in 92, but hey, before 92, you can find me with a big old fat pork chop on my plate. In fact, a stuffed pork chop, right? I have to keep it real with you. But understanding, learning, and growing, hey, man, I know the truth that meat, first of all, it's savagery, right? Come on now. Let's be realistic with ourselves as civilized entities, as civilized beings, right? It is savage to kill another animal and slice the muscles off of its body and cook them and just make yourself feel that it's something normal by calling it meat. No, it's muscles off of another living organism's body that you killed that organism for and cut the muscles off of its body and call it meat. It's a steak, right? It's a piece of chicken. It's chicken wing, huh? You're talking about the body parts of other organisms. Now, when you take into account the way and the method in which these body parts are collected, right, or are attained, more savagery, right? The way these animals are butchered puts incredible amounts of fear and adrenaline and other physical chemicals associated with stress, right, and anxiety in that animal. And I'm talking about heightened levels, not just, put yourself in that position. It's not that you're just a little shook. You are in this long line. Let's take cows, for example, right? Cattle. You're in this long line. Cattle are we so enamored with ourselves that we think other animals can't communicate with one another, right? They know at the end of that line they're about to get whacked. It's fear, terror, right? Anxiety, any kind of negative, stressful emotion or thought that you can think of. Those animals are experiencing all of that, and it is rancid throughout their entire bodies, including those muscles that you slice off and call meat. But we're addicted to all that, right? There are a lot of things about our life, particularly in this country, right? The drugs, oh my goodness. When I say drugs now, I'm not referring to street drugs. I'm talking about the drugs that are prescribed by us by these nefarious members of the American Medical Association, right? Who deem themselves healers and pass out poisons. So, man, just another aspect of our society that we live in on a day-to-day basis that floods us with harmful things that we are addicted to. So, once again, the concept is that if you are addicted to something that is harmful, detrimental, and in fact life-threatening to you, but you can't get enough of it, you are a slave to that thing. All right. I know you love yourselves more than that. I love you, right? And I thank you all for chiming in. And I know I wanted to say something. You know it. Worldwide movement, peace, love, respect, Big King Sadiq. I'm out.